Mama's in the living room watching Judge Judy. I'm in the kitchen eating leftover sushi, and she goes, "Oh, girl, you gotta hear this one." A man was arrested for running a theme park, and when they said, "Where's your license?" he said, "My dog ate it." Oh, you can't make this shit up. Sometimes I wonder if life's just one big cosmic joke. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout. Girl, you gotta hear this one. Mama loves to laugh at how absurd life is, says it's all a comedy and I'm her audience. And I love the way she makes fun of the world. She said, "You'll never guess what's with their girlfriend. It was a man who didn't get us out of the bed. He said, I've been through hell and now I need some help. You just can't make this shit up. You just can't make this shit up." Sometimes I wonder if life's just one big cosmic joke. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout. Girl, you gotta hear this one.
All caps means you're either panicking or trying to represent yourself in court. Both are mistakes. Your feelings are adorable, but they're not admissible, persuasive, or even interesting without evidence. Yes, Heather hates immunity doctrines. It's a personality trait at this point. You don't need to remind her, she wakes up angry about it. Bring receipts. No, I heard it from so and so. This is quid pro quo, not next door. Screenshots are statutes only. Don't fight each other. Fight the law. It deserves it more. If you're offended, excellent. That means you're awake, paying attention, and probably new here. No diagnosing the host. She's petty, not pathological. And don't diagnose anyone else. Stay in your lane, please and thank you. Do not summon the mods. They're tired, hangry, and may bite when provoked. Disagree loudly if you must. The algorithm eats drama for breakfast. Just keep it cute while you argue wrongfully. If you're taking screenshots of my chat, touch grass, tell your handlers. I said hi and find a hobby that isn't me.
Welcome to the pettiest channel on YouTube. So apparently reading publicly available documents is a felony now. Well, if it is, it's the most crowded prison on YouTube. And I'm all here for it. Bring it, bitch. Oh, tonight we're going to talk about that accusation, maybe. Whatever. We are also going to talk about Randy's response to the absolutely ridiculous insinuation that hiding behind a bankruptcy that in legal filings that you brought is somehow a violation of a stay. That's not how that shit works, bitch. And let's roll, motherfuckers. Sorry about the Sunday live stream. I am not talking about this shit on Monday because we are talking Derek Rosa and how he stabbed his mom 50 times allegedly and wants to get rid of the Florida judge, another Florida man or Florida boy, another Florida judge that's tomorrow's topic. And it's not later tonight because we have at 7 o'clock um, Burnout Recovery Part 1 over on ETM, and we are going to hit that. So we are going to get straight to this little housekeeping. For those of you who are new here, this is not my first day on the internet. I am not easily offended, but I am easily petty. So there's that. However, there is a members only content for the month. There is a post up on the community page for all to enjoy, but members. Specifically, that is going to be our members only live stream on January 31st. It is a post that basically goes through every case we're covering, not just this what the Hale's fucking shit, um, but every case. You give your input, what you think is going to happen, and at the end of the month, we'll discuss the comments and see what aged like fine wine and what aged like lips. Anyway, anyway, anyway. Let me get my pettiness out of the way for a second. I'm sorry. Like, y'all, like, I am too busy to give a shit. But the insinuation that I'm somehow a Jeremy, like, supporter, Jeremy hates me too. So, like, I if both sides hate you, you must be doing something fucking right. But, but, if giving my opinion and a little friendly advice, not legal advice, because I never claim to be a lawyer, unlike some people. But we're not going to talk about that. Reading legal documents and reading text messages that have been publicly posted is not practicing law without a license. It's called not being a fucking blind idiot like you. Anyway, let's be very, very clear. If it were every journalist, commentator, law tuber, and person with basic fucking reading comprehension and want to know about the laws in their state, and the legal process would be practicing law without a license. And yeah, that's just not how this shit works. And for someone who graduated fucking law school, she's fucking stupid, man. Like, I usually just don't go around and, throw around accusations of complete and total idiocracy and stupidity and whatever the fuck that is. But damn, if Lisa can literally have helped somebody write other documents, admitted to helping people write legal documents, filed those legal documents for people, had a letter written to the bar, and still be told by the Florida bar that that is not practicing law without a license, then giving my opinion on how shitty of a person you are is not. Sorry, bitch. Try harder. Anyway, we are gonna get straight to it because all the shit going on last night and all the fucking screenshots and shit that I got sent and that were posted in multiple YouTube or multiple Facebook groups today. That's not practicing law. That's fucking being a fucking deflector because your bad behavior. And if you are pissed that people are talking about your bad behavior, that's a you problem, not an us problem. Anyway, I did not actually watch more than 30 seconds of it. I saw screenshots and small screen recordings that were sent to me because fucking wasn't going to waste my brain cells watching most of that shit. Huh. Oh, Squid watching you is like watching a Japanese movie. My sound is off from the video. Watch out for Godzilla. Oh, she's a bullshitter and a crybaby. I just saw the thumbnail that she posted. One, if you want people to watch your channel, don't post a thumbnail with a fucking book in it. Are you fucking stupid? Oh wait, we've already established that. But like, yo, have you never heard of search engine optimization? YouTube's algorithm does not like a shit ton of words in a thumbnail. It likes pictures, short captions and pictures. Y'all. Someone's in a very fiery mood, and that's because I'm busy. I ain't got time for ass hattery, but here you go. Yeah. And I've never been, and I always put, we have it in the chat rules, don't diagnose. Don't diagnose the host. I'm petty, not pathological. Don't diagnose anyone either, because we are not, that is one of my rules here, is to stay in your fucking lane. However, when you put bad behavior out on the internet, and you get pissed when people talk about your bad behavior and your idiocracy and your just straight up bizarre behavior on the internet, that's a you problem. Stay off the internet. And if you're so upset about people talking about your bad behavior, stop having bad behavior. Fucking Sarah Boone, my God. Watch out. Watch out. She might be the next Samsonite Sarah. See, and I'm this kind of person, like, I just don't watch people that I don't like. And the funny thing is half of YouTube is people watching people they don't like, waiting for them to say something that they can quote unquote use. Oh, and Kasha, that's for you and the Go Pack Go comment. Bear down. You know I love you though. You know I love you, girl. I'll talk to you later. But you trying to call out me for commenting on your bad behavior, ask Bruce how that went for him. Ask the Thunder Cunt how that went for her. Thunder Cunt and Cuntosaurus Rex. I'm just a petty bitch. All right, let's pull up this filing because, y'all, I got shit to do. All right, actually, let's go this way. This is I don't stream on this channel on Sundays, and this is why. Amazing that some have the vision social media is great for mental therapy. It's not. It's a sit and spin kind of night, y'all. Hold on for the ride. Yeah, it's a grab your PVC pipe and shove it where the sun don't shine. When my phone can default and autocorrect to Cuntosaurus Rex, you know I'm the same offline as I am online. But to accuse me of a crime, that is defamation. And guess what? That's what people are suing for. So I'd watch your back, bitch. Because I happen to know a couple of lawyers in Florida. Happen to know a couple of lawyers in Georgia, too. Just saying. All right, we're going to get into this document because Randy, and part of my fireness came from reading this document. I read the first 2 pages, and fucking Randy is chef's kiss on fire. Why Randy filed this instead of the the lawyer who's representing Jeremy in the bankruptcy case, I am not really sure. However, that's because I'm not a lawyer and I'm not exactly sure on the fucking bankruptcy process, but that's why we all learn together. Because once again, I never claimed to be a lawyer. I always tell you, this is a layperson's interpretation of the law, because you know how many people don't know? Oh, she got mad at me. I'm pretty sure she got mad at me because I read her text messages that Jeremy had posted. Jeremy had posted, and they were reposted where I saw. And that apparently reading documents is practicing law without a license. Yeah, publicly available court documents. What does reading Charles Dickens make me an author? It's not how that shit works, but okay, bitch. That is how you know someone is either deflecting or just plain stupid. And I'm really not sure which one. I would like to say deflecting from their bad behavior, but at this point, like, the stupidity is just a little bit much. Like, just a little bit much. Can you keep that stupidity to yourself? And bless your heart, you have children. Please do not pass the stupid gene to them. All right. Uh, Not very well, though, because accusing me of practicing law without a license for reading publicly available court documents. I'm not even I don't know. I don't know. But I'm glad y'all like my personality because this is me. This is me all the time. Like, except over on ETM, I am more of my professional self, but this is where it's like you get my personality and what I thought, my thoughts without a filter. And usually I have somewhat of a filter where I like maintain some sort of like non-biased, let's go through this and give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But like when you accuse me of a crime, oh, bitch, you might want to hold on to your hat for this one. Just saying. Just saying. Yeah, well, she's one to target Shizzy because Shizzy's married to a lawyer. Oh, and Shizzy lives in the same state as me, by the way. So I have no idea. And there's a difference between like reporting on a case and reporting on someone's bad behavior and inputting yourself. That's one of the reasons that I have no contact with Jeremy and I don't want contact with anybody else is because that is in my opinion that is inserting myself into the case and I don't want to do that. I'm reporting on it. However, you know, yeah, if I read 50 Shades of Grey that makes me a pimp. Yeah, that's what it is. It's God, I love you guys. Oh my god. Oh. Well, let's just hope it doesn't become a freaking um Lifetime movie. But but mm. Well, that was my point. Like if you're going to accuse me of that, wouldn't actually helping someone write documents and filing those documents for them be much closer than giving you my opinion on how someone writes documents? Jesus. All right. This is the response to Jeremy Hale's response in opposition to debtor's emergency motion to enforce the automatic stay and for damages. Just fucking A. Comes now Jeremy Hales by and through undersigned counsel, hereby files this response. The debtor seeks to invalidate a state court order determining entitlement to sanctions under Florida Statute 57.105 and recover damages for an alleged willful violation of the automatic stay. The emergency motion is without merit. This is because it is well settled Florida law that the automatic stay does not apply to defensive measures taken in response to litigation initiated by a debtor. The motion at issue arose directly from the debtor's own pre-petition litigation conduct in a case she voluntarily filed a frivolous lawsuit as a plaintiff. The state court properly determined that it had authority to rule on the entitlement sanctions despite the automatic stay, while appropriately reserving jurisdiction to establish the amount once the stay is lifted. That motion that we read yesterday, he literally argued against himself at every other point. It was like, and you don't have to be a lawyer to know when someone is like arguing against themselves. We've all, well, those of you over a certain age, all had to take a debate class in high school or at least have a debate in English class or history class or something where you had to take both sides of a position and you had to argue that position. So we all know that we all can recognize when someone is arguing against themselves. They will say something and then contradict their own point in the next sentence. And that's literally what was happening yesterday, which was making me so damn crazy. Like, you don't have to be a lawyer to know bullshit when you hear it. Like, that motion yesterday could have been half the amount of pages and twice the effectiveness if he wouldn't have argued against his own points. You don't have to be a lawyer to tell bullshit writing. If you need a law degree to tell bullshit writing, well, then every doctor needs a fucking law degree too. Every therapist needs a law degree because the amount of bullshit writing I've seen in medical notes, man. Holy fuck. Moreover, under U.S. federal bankruptcy law, a state court proceeding initiated by the debtor as a plaintiff against a creditor is not stayed when the debtor files for bankruptcy. The stay under 11 U.S. Code 362 applies only to lawsuits against the debtor and does not extend to lawsuits initiated by the debtor. Courts have consistently held that automatic stay does not prohibit a defendant in an action brought by a debtor from defending itself, especially against a frivolous lawsuit that is filed by the debtor here. I like how he keeps including that. Hold on, I have to return a text message real quick. Dropped my phone. Oh. All those tacky lawyer jokes just keep hitting my head. Yeah, that motion yesterday was just like the reason why I ran it through AI to see if it had anything to do with, or like it had anything in common with a motion that Bruce wrote, because it gave me that same like beat my head up against a wall when I started reading it. Like it, I so I don't like everything that Randy writes. Sometimes I think that he doesn't need to bring up things, or that he's getting distracted by certain things that aren't important. Maybe it's my medical background, but I'm kind of like, get to the point, unimportant detail, get to the point. And that's the difference between legal filings and medical writings, is we are medical, straight to the point, no fuss, no nonsense, no like, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. Whereas legal is more like a story and tells a story with all the details and the case law and fills in all the gaps. And I get it, but sometimes I'm just like, y'all, you said that like 8 times. So with that being said, I criticize everybody's writing. And I'm sure if these lawyers, good ones and bad ones, they critique their own writings, because that's how you improve. If we stayed the same and we thought we were perfect at everything we did, we'd never get better. That's why you go back and you change thumbnails, or you change titles and descriptions of videos. You condense playlists, you update content, you change your content if something's not working. Like, you grow as a human, and like as a OTA, you would always work with a patient, and then you'd look back and you'd have continuing ed classes. You'd always try to grow. How do I do better? I'm sure trial lawyers, and I'm not a trial lawyer, but I can imagine that they go through and they watch their trials if they're recorded. Just like football players watch their footage so they can get better. They can figure out what they messed up on, what they're good at, and improve. By thinking you're perfect at everything, you're never going to be a better human. But one of the reasons I ran that document yesterday through AI and asked ChatGPT to compare it to a BBB document is it gave me that same feeling of like, you're arguing against yourself. You're giving details that like are, this is not appropriate to be put in this case. This would be appropriate if you were filing a motion in the state court. This is not an appropriate motion for a bankruptcy court, kind of a situation. Which just reminded me so much of BBB's filings from Federal One. I just had to, But when we made that little sideshow yesterday, all of the things started happening. However, however, it's this one is like Randy's straight to the point. Hold on, I have to make a phone call. Okay. Well, this is you know, all right, I have to take care of something in a minute, but I have to wait for my phone to reset because it's being stupid. However, uh, the automatic stay does not extend to lawsuits initiated by the debtor. I mean, including filing motions such as those for sanctions, incurring the fees to defend against a frivolous lawsuit. This is because these are considered defensive actions rather than an offensive action against the debtor. Oh my goodness. A whole bunch of case law. By the terms of 11 U.S. Code 362A, the automatic stay only applies to proceedings against the debtor. This court determines whether a proceeding is against the debtor by examining the posture of the case at the initial proceeding. If the debtor brings the initial claim, 362 has no effect. I mean, shocker, right? Like, I mean, you would think that would be common sense, but apparently, and I know a lot of the things that I think are common sense aren't. However, um, you know, but now I have to see if I can make that phone call. I will be back in just a second. Thanks for your cooperation. I'm going to be on my phone, so if I seem a little distracted, if I get messages, um, mm, A motion for sanctions under the Florida Statute 57 is considered defensive action rather than offensive. The statute is designed to deter baseless lawsuits or claims by requiring the losing party and their attorney to pay reasonable attorney's fees. If it is determined that a claim or defense was not supported by material facts of existing law, but not without first giving an opponent a 21-day safe harbor window to withdraw such frivolous lawsuits and claims without any financial penalty. This provision is applied to discourage frivolous litigation and ensure parties act in good faith during legal proceedings. Yeah, good faith. Good faith. Uh, oh, all right. Hey, I know. Oh, my pretty Pam. Read the read. Holy crap. Listen to the first 5 minutes. If you want some entertainment value, listen to the first 5 minutes. Hello. Sorry, I'm coughing. Uh, the purpose of 57 is to discourage baseless claims, not to prevent access to Florida courts. Florida Statute 57 explicitly provides that sanctions may be sought against claims or or defenses that are factually or legally unsupportable. Whole bunch of case law. Case law, case law, case law. Oh, you notice that? How Randy puts case law in here? Oh, my goodness. My goodness. I was pretty feisty. Pretty feisty. Because I'm just, I'm just me. Section 57.105, fees can only be awarded in cases where there is a complete absence of a justiciable issue of either law or fact raised by the losing party. Oh boy. Additionally, the procedural requirements of Florida Statute 57.105, such as the 21-day safe harbor provision, reinforce its defensive application. This provision allows the opposing party an opportunity to withdraw a frivolous lawsuit before the motion is ever filed with the court, aiming to resolve disputes without unnecessary litigation. In another case, the court clearly held that the automatic stay does not prohibit a defendant in an action brought by a plaintiff debtor from defending itself in that action. Likewise, in another case, because, Brandy cites case law after case law after case law after case law, which is nice. The court clarified that if a debtor brings the initial claim, the automatic stay has no effect, as the proceeding is not against the debtor. Hey, it's me. Hello, Squid. Is the like button sort of a tip jar? It is not a tip jar. However, it does help me boost the algorithm, and we're trying to make it to 5K this year because, unlike some people, I like to keep evolving and growing and learning. But there is a tip jar. It's that little dollar sign. And if you want to send tips, they're greatly encouraged. Not required, but greatly appreciated. Oh, hey, Spawn, go back and check out the first 5 minutes. I got a little feisty. You'll like it. Yes. But it makes money in a roundabout way. Yes. And to all my hate watchers, you beautiful people. Well, not beautiful if you look in the mirror, but beautiful to my wallet. Thank you. Uh, I'm such I'm so corny sometimes. Don't go too far back in time, just a few seconds. Yeah. Ninja Puppy, thanks for the 199 super chat. It's small but mighty. Thank you for ensuring I don't work for free, completely free today. Because we are going live on the other channel, and that is completely free because I am not monetized over there because it is brand new. Uh, the principle could not be better emphasized by the Ninth Circuit Bankruptcy Appellate Panel. Oh, by its terms, 362A1 applies in an action against. The state does not apply to actions commenced by the debtor and against a third party. See layman commercial paper, a whole bunch of case law. The automatic stay has been found inapplicable to lawsuits initiated by the debtor. The primary purpose of 362, however, do not apply. However, to offensive actions by a debtor or bankruptcy trustee, as the same policy considerations do not exist where the debtor has initiated a prepetition of law or prepetition lawsuit against a creditor. He's not corrupting me, I'm corrupting him. Hey, Magic Angel. How are you? Yes, I'm getting out all the words before my next stream. In Gordon v. Whitmore, we consider whether the defendants violated the automatic stay by continuing to defend themselves in state court action against the debtors. A prepetition of fraud action, including obtaining summary judgment post-petition. We examined the language of 362A and concluded that the automatic stay applied only to actions that are initiated against the debtor. It is most unlikely that a contention by a defendant that the trustee's claims is unfounded can be equated with exercising dominion over control or control over property of the estate. Thus, the operative subsections in the case at hand, A1 and A3, contemplate actions against the debtor and not concerning the debtor, which is much broader. Wait till tomorrow. Well, the reason I'm doing this now is because I got other stuff scheduled for tomorrow already because I'm behind on other content, like a whole bunch of other content, because I took a couple of days off this week. That's what happens when you take days off. I tried to give you a bad boy image. Squid took it. I just gotta say, when you act like a fool on the internet and people make fun of it or talk about it, don't be surprised. Don't be shocked, and don't be mad. How about you be better? Do better. For someone who's so educated, you a fucking dumbass. Just like Bruce. Is Florida full of stupid lawyers? Like, y'all graduated from college. Sort of. Y'all, you know? Yeah. My other channel's link is, Heidi will post it, and then I'll pin it to the top of the chat. There we go. And I do a 7 catch up on that other channel. I do a 7 p.m. on Sundays live stream, but it's only like 45 minutes to an hour. It's a health and wellness, so we're kind of straight to the point, and it's not a lot of commentary. It's more get the information out and move on with your day kind of a situation. Sorry, have to I got a whole to-do list that I've been working on today, and it's just Oh, yeah. Exactly. It's just like I hear Jeff, legal voices. I know. Like, I'm definitely not a replacement by any means, God forbid. But, like, there are certain things that I learned from Jeff, and be better is one of them. Like, you know, I calculated I have 2 days worth of editing to send Dr. Pepper. I'm trying to script things right now and videos for this channel and that channel, and but batch record, and it's like life is yuck. The automatic stay gives the debtor a breathing spell from his creditors and allows the trustee to marshal assets of the estate for the benefit of the creditors, while restraint of a defendant in a suit subject to prosecution by the estate arguably could contribute to an orderly processing of estate assets. We could find no case that supports the proposition that an automatic stay prevents a defendant from continuing to defend against a pre bankruptcy lawsuit. To the contrary, there is substantial authority that the stay is inapplicable to post petition defensive actions in a pre petition suit brought by the debtor. Brought by the debtor. See, that's the part that, like, they're missing. This shit was brought by her. It doesn't matter if she wanted to drop it. You dropped it too late. Safe harbor. Safe harbor be gone. Um, and Jeremy and all the rest of the defendants want their money because they had to pay for lawyers and pay to defend the case. And you can't just go, well, okay, well, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out. That's not how this shit works. That's Laura Owens. You all of a sudden you're just not like, "Oh, but I don't wanna do this anymore. Have a nice day," and never deal with it again. There's still shit to be settled, and that is what they were working on in a case that she brought. Like, the oy yoy. Oy yoy. Ugh. Oh, no. It's been a hell of a week. Was in the hospital with double pneumonia and the flu, renal failure, sepsis, ugh, just a mess. Home recuperating, will fall asleep. Well, um speaking of recovery, that's the topic of our stream on the other channel is burnout recovery. Not exactly the same thing as recovery from everything you've just gone through, but there might be some helpful hints in there and helpful things that might work for you too. We have we have a list, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Um, but I hope you feel better because that just mm, mm. Mm. Oh, yes, and this well, according to her, do the research, and I am currently going back because 'cause I've done 2 streams specifically, one in May and one in June of 2025 on Lips and her cases, not anything related to Jeremy, just things that she has brought against people and the case against the bar association in Florida and all of that stuff. I have specifically I've done 2 streams that I can specifically think of that I looked at today on her only y months ago, almost a year ago at this point. Um, so, like, me talking about her is not new. The f that's what I that is the other thing that I find unbelievably funny. It's like, "Where you been, bitch? I've been talking about you for almost a year." Like, just saying, just saying. The automatic stay, we cited the Seventh Circuit's unequivocal language permitting a defendant to defend himself against a pre-petition lawsuit. The fundamental purpose of bankruptcy, from the creditor standpoint, is to prevent creditors from trying to steal a march on each other. In another case, in the Seventh Circuit, the automatic stay is essential to accomplishing this purpose. There is, in contrast, no policy of preventing persons whom the bankrupt has sued from protecting their legal rights. Will you look at that? We concluded the automatic stay should not tie the hands of a defendant while the plaintiff debtor is given free rein to litigate. Mhm. All right, a proceeding against the debtor. under 11 U.S. Code 362 does not include a defensive motion for sanctions filed in a pre-petition lawsuit where the debtor is the plaintiff and brought the initial claim. Like, y'all, all of this means the following: a proceeding against the debtor. Thanks, Randy, for putting it in a plain, simple, one sentence. Like, under 362 does not include a defensive motion for sanctions filed in a pre-petition lawsuit where the debtor is the plaintiff and brought the initial claim. That's the common sense part. It's like she brought this, and you cannot stop people from defending themselves. The automatic stay applies to actions or proceedings against the debtor and does not generally extend to lawsuits initiated by the debtor. The stay generally prohibits the continuation of a judicial action against the debtor that was commenced before the bankruptcy and prohibits any act to obtain possession of the property of the estate or to exercise control over property of the estate. It follows that the primary purpose of 362 does not apply to offensive actions taken by the debtor. Where the debtor has initiated a pre-petition lawsuit against a creditor, the same policy considerations underlying 362 do not exist. It's almost like common sense. Just meh. Sometimes I wonder if Bruce or Saran Wrap just tell her whatever just to shut her up. I don't know. I don't know as a lawyer. Like, I have ethics classes to take as a therapy assistant. I don't know, and I know that lawyers have ethics classes to take too. I do not understand how this many lawyers can have such poor ethics. Or people who used to be lawyers. Mm. That's not my job no more. Nope. They all seem to think, "Oh, but I know ethics," not really listen well. Yeah, because they all think they're smarter than everybody else. But a lot of people in this world think that. These are not limited to the people in this case. But to be perfectly honest, with everybody talking about this case and everybody who's thrown their hat into the ring, so to speak, it's becoming like the battle of the narcissists. Mm. That is not diagnosing NPD. That is just being able to read what narcissistic traits in someone are, and we all have them, but some have more than others. Uh, I mean, I don't think she knows. Yeah, and that's part of what I think pissed her off yesterday was someone sent me um someone sent me the cyberbullying statute, and reading more into it after the live, it's more of along the lines of like if you send someone a picture and they share it with others. However, Texas does have a cyber sexting law that if you send someone an unsolicited picture, it is a crime. So I'm still looking at Florida statutes to see if one of those exists. But based on those text messages yesterday, and of course, those were edited and copied and pasted into a different program. They weren't screenshots directly from, you know. So I would like to see the metadata on them and like if there was any responses or anything. However, it, it at what point does Jeremy go and file a police report with the sheriff's office and being like, I am getting all these unwanted pictures and videos of nudes. Don't ever, 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 under any circumstances, send anybody any pictures or videos of anything. Like, I just have a good one. It's just it's just I think that's when she got mad because I had read out part of the statute that said what she was doing could be, maybe. I'm not a cop either. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a cop. So, but it might be appropriate to go and file a, if nothing else, to protect yourself from someone saying, well, he has all these pictures of me. Yeah, pictures you sent. But apparently that was legal advice. That's not legal advice. That's just common sense. I did need you. That's just common sense. And not that Jeremy and I are friends, but acquaintances. Like, he's been on my channel for 3 minutes last December. Like, I don't hate the man. We're not friends, but I don't hate the man. So, from a little friendly, like, friend to friend, if I were in your position, I'd be going to the fucking cop shop. But I think that's when she got mad. And I think that was legal advice in her eyes. It's like, no, that wasn't legal advice. That's just, if I were you, that's what I would do. That's just me. Oh boy. Anyway, I only have 60 minutes to get through 18 more pages. He goes into more about true, even if the defendant's successful defense will result in the loss of an allegedly valuable claim asserted by the debtor. Therefore, a creditor may file a motion for sanctions in a state court proceeding even after the debtor files for bankruptcy, as this action would not violate the automatic stay. For the reasons set forth above and below, the debtor's emergency motion should be denied in its entirety. Background, if you don't know the background on this case, I have a playlist with 162 videos. And there's 10 other channels that I can think of. Some I like, some I don't, that on both sides of this case that have talked about it thoroughly until you can't take any more of it. There we go. So we're not getting into the background anymore. Because if we don't know the background, oh, Lord help us. Does anybody have a problem with me skipping the background? Because that was 3 pages we didn't have to talk about. The automatic stay does not apply to sanctions proceedings against a debtor who initiated the underlying litigation as the plaintiff. Florida courts have consistently held that the automatic stay provision applies only to actions against a debtor in bankruptcy. And the fact, I know he has to repeat this so many times because he's citing case law whenever he does it, generally, but it's like, this is what kind of annoys me about legal filings. It's like, it's over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like, we get it already. Not to actions brought by the debtor or defensive measures. This is the key right here. Or defensive measures taken in response to the debtor's litigation. This was the part that her lawyer could not, in my mind, he either didn't care or could not mentally process the fact that it's a defensive measure taken against her. It's defensive. She's the offense in that case. It's a defensive measure. Me defending myself is not covered by 362. Yeah. Please skip the background, means you might be able to finish the reading. Yeah. The motion at issue arose directly from the debtor's pre-petition frivolous litigation conduct in a case she voluntarily filed. Yeah, anyone needing background answer, chat will answer. Chat's got this. State courts have concurrent jurisdiction with bankruptcy courts to determine whether proceedings before them are subject to the automatic stay. The state court properly exercised this jurisdiction by determining that the sanctions proceedings could proceed despite the debtor's bankruptcy. The state court's order shows appropriate deference to the bankruptcy proceedings by reserving jurisdiction to establish the amount of sanctions once the stay is lifted. That was an important, Judge Grobe did a very good job with that, distinguishing, hey, just because I am approving this motion for sanctions and I put in this order for sanctions, we are reserving the amount until the stay is lifted. That was like, that was the perfect cover your ass statement of how you can still do your job, but be in compliance with this 362. The entitlement to sanctions was ordered against both the debtor and her former attorney in equal shares, demonstrating that they addressed litigation misconduct rather than attempting to collect a debt from the debtor personally. There's an important distinction too this is why I'm not a lawyer. And this is one of the reasons that I like reading filings, because these are things you learn. And I feel like you learn how to argue better and prove your point better in any debate with anybody when you read legal filings. Not only do you learn the legal process and how shit actually works in this country, but you learn how to prove your point better. When you're going, say you have to go talk to your kid's teacher or your kid's school, and you're trying to argue a point, and you can better articulate facts, details, if you read people who do it every day. Florida law clearly establishes that a voluntary dismissal does not divest a court of jurisdiction to award sanctions for pre-dismissal conduct. The debtor's request for damages under 11 U.S. Code 362K should be denied because there was no willful violation of the automatic stay. We'll see at the end, but I think this was filed by Randy. I believe this was filed by Randy. When you look at the docket, it says by Randy Shockett. So we'll see who actually signed it, but we'll see at the bottom of the document. But at the same time, the docket says by Randy Shockett. So, which kind of did confuse me a little bit, not gonna lie, because he has a bankruptcy attorney. Yeah, I don't know. Automatic stay does not apply to sanctions proceedings against the debtor who initiated litigation. The automatic stay provisions of the Bankruptcy Code is designed to protect debtors from collection actions and to preserve the status quo for the debtor. However, this protection is not unlimited. Federal courts have consistently held that the automatic stay applies only to actions against the debtor, not to actions brought by the debtor. This principle has consistently applied to Florida courts. For example, the Florida 2nd District Court of Appeal has explicitly held the automatic stay provision of the Bankruptcy Code 362A only applies to actions brought against a debtor in bankruptcy. Consequences for filing a frivolous lawsuit are not subject to the automatic stay when the debtor initiated the underlying litigation. When a debtor initiates litigation as a plaintiff, as Preston did in this case, the automatic stay does not shield the debtor from consequences of their litigation conduct. As has been pointed out by defendants in their objections and response, the bankruptcy stay does not apply in this case. The automatic stay provided by 11 U.S. Code 362A enjoins the commencement or continuation of all litigation against the debtor based on pre-petition claims. In the present case, the action was not brought against Dr. Leyva as a debtor, but she filed the complaint against the defendant seeking damages. There's no bankruptcy automatic stay for Dr. Leyva as plaintiff in this action. In another case, the 11th Circuit explained the automatic stay provisions of the Bankruptcy Code does not extend to the lawsuits initiated by the debtor. See all these cases, Automatic stay provisions only applies to proceedings against the debtor. This means that because the underlying lawsuit was brought by Preston, it's clearly not an action against the debtor. It's sad that that has to be like said. It's just Randy filed this because he's the attorney of the state case. Thank you, Lori. That does make sense, but for some reason, like, it wasn't computing as, like, it makes sense, but, like, it's weird. But, once again, I've never seen 2 people involved in so many different lawsuits together. I don't know why Sarah Interrupt didn't file to have the cases decided by the you know, mm, I don't ask questions these days anymore. 'Cause sometimes you're just like, "I don't know. I don't know." But see, I don't ever claim to be a lawyer here, so I'm subject to being corrected, and I'm okay with being corrected and asking questions and having chat be like, "Hey, this is why." I might not always take what chat says as 100% fact. However, when I ask a question and y'all give me an answer, at least we got somewhere. Because I'm not a lawyer, so I don't claim to be. I'm a layperson who likes to learn and likes to read in most cases. So, hello. All right. Ah. She voluntarily initiated litigation against Hales and the other defendants. The motion in the state court action arose directly from her litigation conduct in that case. The one thing that's interesting to me is just the timing of this. I know that they have to do a conferral, so the minute that they conferred, I wonder how soon that was before whatever his name is, Jerome Saran Swama, whatever. Um, how far before? I know there's a time limit. That was a big thing in federal one with Bruce and how much time was given before you contacted me, before you filed something. But I wonder if Jeremy or if Randy already had this written because this is a quick turnaround. Um, that other document was posted yesterday, the 9th, so 2 days ago. 2 days ago. Fine. Say he gave him 48 hours notice that he was gonna file it. 4 days? 4 days for a 23-page motion? That's a it's almost like Randy and Jeremy or Randy and Dennis. I can't say Jeremy because Jeremy's not a lawyer either, but Randy and Dennis and Doreen, they know these people's playbook. Your guess is as good as mine. Contrast the above with the nearly bereft case law. Only 2 cases cited by the debtor to support her motion. Debtor cited Lewis in an attempt to support her motion. Debtor's case cite is wrong. Ooh. The third the 3rd district did not issue that opinion. The 6th district did. Oh, Jesus, Pete. Oh my god. Uh, Debtor citation is easily distinguishable because it does not concern a lawsuit where the debtor voluntarily initiated litigation against the creditor. In fact, it was just the opposite. The issue in Lewis concerned a pre-petition lawsuit filed by a landlord creditor as a plaintiff against the debtor. Oh my god. Ugh, that's so stupid. That's so stupid. And the landlord received an eviction order against the debtor even though a bankruptcy petition was filed. Correctly, the appellate court reversed the eviction order as void due to its issuance during the pendency of the automatic stay and remanded the case for further proceedings. And in the footnote, Randy put the correct citation. The only other case cited by the debtor in support of her motion is Echo River Sanctuary, LLC versus 21st Mortgage Corp., Florida First District Court of Appeals, 2022. Unfortunately, this also does not help the debtor in her argument. This is because her case law is not even remotely close to concerning a lawsuit where the debtor voluntarily initiated litigation against the creditor. Instead, it was a case concerning a lawsuit filed by a mortgage company against a debtor, where nearly a month before the mortgage company attempted to perfect its lien, the debtor filed for bankruptcy. Yeah, pretty much. That seems to be pretty accurate. Uh, Motions under Florida Statute 57 are consequences of improper litigation conduct, not pre-petition claims. Uh, the purpose of 57.105 is to deter frivolous litigation and compensate parties who are forced to defend against such litigation. Florida Statute 57.105 generally provides the basis for sanctions against parties and counsel who assert frivolous claims or defenses or pursue litigation for the purpose of unreasonable delay. This means that it's designed to address litigation misconduct, not to create substantive claims against a party. Simply put, the debtor cannot have it both ways. I mean, that's true. Yeah, sorry, no, go back and read. But reading will make him a lawyer. According to some people's logic, reading a lawsuit will make you a lawyer. So maybe if he goes back and he reads case law, it will make him a lawyer. Fancy how that one works. The debtor cannot use the automatic stay as both a sword and a shield. Allowing the debtor to use the automatic stay as a shield themselves from sanctions while pursuing claims against others would undermine the purpose of both the automatic stays and sanctions provisions. This is contrary to public policy behind the automatic stay, which is designed to protect debtors from collection actions, not to provide immunity for litigation misconduct. The principle that the automatic stay does not apply to actions brought by the debtor prevents debtors from using the automatic stay as both a sword and a shield, pursuing claims against others while simultaneously claiming immunity from the consequences of their conduct. The state court's order does not violate the automatic stay. State court had jurisdiction to determine the applicability of the stay. As Florida courts have recognized, the court in which the litigation claimed to be stayed is pending has jurisdiction to determine not only its own jurisdiction, but also the more precise question whether the proceeding pending before it's subject to the automatic stay. We hold that the circuit court possessed limited jurisdiction to answer a discrete inquiry whether its pending proceeding was subject to the automatic stay. Its limited focus upon the pending proceeding and not whether the debtor, as here, is legally entitled to the benefit of the automatic stay. This concurrent jurisdiction allows the state court to evaluate whether its actions fall within the scope of the automatic stay. The court in which the litigation claimed to be stayed is pending has jurisdiction to determine not only its own jurisdiction, but also the more precise jurisdiction more precise question whether the proceeding pending before it's subject to the automatic stay. Holy. Thus, the applicability of the automatic stay falls concurrently within the purview of the bankruptcy court and that of the state court. In a whole bunch of case law, therefore, the court rejects debtor's implicit argument that a state court decision interpreting the scope of the automatic stay is void ab initio. Ooh. This means the state court properly exercised this jurisdiction by determining that the sanctions proceedings could proceed despite the debtor's bankruptcy filing. This determination is consistent with Florida precedent, which has consistently held that the automatic stay does not apply to actions brought by the debtor or defensive measures taken in response to the debtor's litigation. The state court's order shows appropriate deference to bankruptcy proceedings. Nonetheless, the state court's order demonstrates appropriate deference to the bankruptcy proceedings while properly determining that the defendants are entitled to sanctions. The court reserved jurisdiction to establish the amount once the bankruptcy stay is lifted. This approach perfectly respects the bankruptcy process while properly exercising the state court's concurrent jurisdiction to determine the applicability of the automatic stay. 602. Oh. This balanced approach is consistent with the purpose of the automatic stay, which is to provide temporary relief to the debtor from creditors' collection efforts, as shown above. It is not intended to shield debtors from the consequences of their litigation conduct or to prevent courts from managing their docket and enforcing their rules. It's almost like certain people don't realize that their actions have consequences. And when they get shown consequences, they get pissed and they freak out. It's like, no, 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 no. You can't always attack other people and attack. And then when someone points out your bad behavior and laughs at it, all of a sudden be the victim. That's a narcissistic trait. Narcissists do that. I mean, yeah. This is especially true when the debtor, as a plaintiff, attempts to get away with filing a frivolous lawsuit. That is precisely what occurred here. Florida law supports the state court's approach to sanctions. Florida laws on frivolous litigation, 57-105. As if we needed to hear that again. If you don't know, 57.105 in Florida is important for frivolous litigation. Provides the basis for sanctions against parties and counsel who assert frivolous claims or defenses or pursue litigation for the purpose of unreasonable delay. I feel like this is all that certain people know how to do. The statute includes a 21-day safe harbor provision, which allows a party to withdraw the offending pleading to avoid sanctions. Here, the defendants properly served a 21-day safe harbor letter on Preston and her attorney before filing the motion under Florida Statute 57-105. This statute was revised in 1999. It now applies to any claim or defense and does not require that the entire action be frivolous. This broader scope reflects the legislature's intent to deter frivolous litigation when parties are forced to defend against such litigation. Voluntary dismissal does not divest the court of jurisdiction to hear a motion under 57-105. Preston's voluntary dismissal of her complaint after the expiration of the 21-day safe harbor period does not shield her from sanctions for her pre-dismissal conduct. Yeah, pretty much. Florida courts have held that a notice of voluntary dismissal does not divest a trial court of jurisdiction to award sanctions under 57-105, even after voluntary dismissal is taken and cited directly from that case. The only exception is where the plaintiff has voluntarily dismissed the case within the 21-day safe harbor period, in which case sanctions pursuant to 57-105 are unavailable to the defendant. Preston and her attorney failed to take advantage of this opportunity and proceeded in continuing the frivolous lawsuit she filed against Hales after the 21-day safe harbor period of Florida Statute 57-105. Debtor is not entitled to damages. There was no willful violation of the automatic stay as provided in the last 18 pages. Under 11 U.S. Code 362, an individual injured by willful violation of the automatic stay may recover actual damages, including costs and attorney's fees, and, in appropriate circumstances, punitive damages. However, there can be no willful violation of the automatic stay because the stay does not apply. It's like 0 plus 0 equals 0. Sorry about your luck. No matter how many times, 0 times 0 is always going to equal 0. The math ain't math in here. Ah. Hales and his counsel reasonably relied on established Florida precedent holding that the automatic stay does not apply to defensive measures taken in response to litigation initiated by the debtor. They filed a detailed memorandum of law analyzing the relevant case law and concluding that the sanctions proceedings could proceed. This was not an attempt to circumvent the bankruptcy process, but rather a good faith legal position supported by substantial authority. Even if this court ultimately disagrees with the state court's interpretation of the scope of the automatic stay, Hales's actions would not constitute a willful violation warranting damages. At most, there was a good faith dispute about the legal scope of the stay, not a willful violation. The bankruptcy court has authority to validate the state court's order below. Even if the court were to find that the state court's order technically violated the automatic stay, bankruptcy courts have the authority to validate such actions by retroactively annulling the stay when the circumstances warrant such relief. The court shall grant relief from the stay such by terminating, annulling, or modifying or conditioning such stay for cause. This is not nearly as bad as yesterday. Yesterday, I was like, this is actually a pretty easy read when you're not constantly stopping and going, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? When you're just like, yep, once again, that doesn't work. Once again, against the debtor. It only applies against the debtor. When you bring something up, you are on offense, not defense. The 11th Circuit has explained that the word annulling in this provision evidently contemplates the power of the bankruptcy courts to grant relief from the stay, which has a retroactive effect. Otherwise, its inclusion, next to terminating, would be superfluous. I hate that word. I hate that word. I can never read it. Yeah. That's true. At least Randy's writing is easier to read. It's the law that's confusing as opposed to the law and the writer. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, this is an easy read. Yesterday was reading a bad book report from a 4th grader. I would rather read a bad book report from a 4th grader than reread yesterday. Like, you're calm and not distracted. Wow, everyone leave her alone. Yeah, because I said what I needed to say. I got my petty out at the beginning. I got my, I got the facts out. But I still hold, if you act like a fool on the internet, or you send people messages and they post them, and you're embarrassed or upset or angry by when they post your DMs, I'm not a fan of posting DMs, but when you accuse someone of SA and then they post your DMs as like a see what she's sending me type of situation to defend themselves, you should not be mad. AT2, you will always be petty. Embrace it. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah. I don't have the little petty videos up, but I have some videos on other I have media assets. So StreamYard has media assets and I have different rooms. Like I have a rain one, I have an ETM one, I have a recording, I have when I do aviation streams. So they have all different backgrounds and all different scenes. So things are a little more organized. Well, the only problem with it is like certain videos, they don't transfer over like they do. They don't transfer over so I can upload different videos. The problem is they don't transfer over. So I don't have the the petty videos like I do. I have my petty intro rules, but my petty chat rules, but I don't have the rules like I or the little, welcome to the pettyverse anymore because I'm using a s- a media asset room, a stage that I set up just for these kind of streams. Getting better is also sometimes things go sideways. So I need to finish this up and make a couple phone calls real quick. So we're going to finish this up super quick. And then I'm going to go and take like a 20-minute break. Factors considered when determining whether to retroactively annul the stay include whether the debtor acted in bad faith and whether the grounds would have existed for modification of the stay if a motion had been filed before the violation. In this case, the circumstances warrant retroactive annulment of the stay if the court finds that the state court order technically violated the stay. Preston initiated the underlying litigation as a plaintiff, failed to respond to discovery requests. I like how he added, thank you, Randy, for adding that in there. Because remember, this is the bankruptcy judge. She is not privy to what happens in state court. She might see the case numbers, but she doesn't have all the documents and all the knowledge because one, this ain't her only case. And two, there's only so much investigating that she can do. So she doesn't know things unless they are explicitly told to her. So I really, really appreciate the fact that Randy added this in. By the way, she not only brought this litigation, wanted to or didn't drop it after the 21 days or before the 21-day safe harbor rule, but she also failed to respond to discovery requests in a case that she brought. Like, make this shit make sense. And voluntarily dismissed her complaint on the eve of a hearing on the defendant's motion for summary judgment. She was properly noticed for the sanctions hearing, but chose not to appear. Chef's kiss on this. These circumstances demonstrate grounds would have existed for modification of the stay if a motion had been filed before the state court's order. For the foregoing reasons, the automatic stay does not apply to the sanctions proceedings against the debtor, who initiated the underlying litigation as the plaintiff. The state court properly exercised its concurrent jurisdiction to determine that the motion could proceed despite the automatic stay, and its order granting the motion determining entitlement to sanctions while reserving jurisdiction to establish the amount once the stay is lifted shows appropriate deference to the bankruptcy proceedings. The sanctions were imposed against both the debtor and her former attorney in equal shares, demonstrating that they address litigation misconduct rather than attempting to collect a debt from the debtor personally. The debtor cannot use the automatic stay as both a sword and a shield, pursuing claims against others while simultaneously claiming immunity from the consequences of her frivolous litigation. There was no willful violation of the automatic stay where the debtor is not entitled to damages under 362. Wherefore, creditor Jeremy Hales respectfully requests that this honorable court deny the debtor's emergency motion, find the automatic stay does not apply, uphold the validity of the state court's order, deny the debtor's request for damages, and grant such other relief. So this is filed by Randy, and that a motion for clarification was furnished but on January 11th. So he sent that to him today. So, yeah. So, that is the fire motion from Randy. I mean, that was, as far as 23-page motions go, that was less than an hour, and that was an hour and 20 minutes. Like, I mean, Randy, that was fire. I mean, I don't have much to say about that because it literally, he just repeated using a ton of case law, the same thing. It does not apply to a motion where she is the plaintiff. bringing it back to sports, something I'm sort of good at. An offense. You cannot you are the offense in that case. You are only protected when you are the defense. And you cannot claim to be you cannot hide behind this bankruptcy when you are the offense. And you cannot stop somebody else from defending themselves against claims that you brought. It seems like it's common sense. And this is where, like, my brain just explodes because it's like common sense would tell you that it only applies to where you are the defendant or the debtor again the claims against you. And the fact that she is trying so hard, this bankruptcy was the worst fucking idea. The worst fucking idea. Like, I'm just like this plain devil's advocate. I am not a lawyer, and I never played one on TV, and I never pretended to be one on on the interwebs. Um, however, however, um, and I could not pass the bar like someone else claims that they could take the bar exam tomorrow and pass it. Fuck that shit. I couldn't do it. However, common sense would tell you that hiding behind a bankruptcy is not a good idea because you're just adding more fuel to the fire. It just, oh, yeah, yeah. Yes, the judgment is not a debt, it's a consequence of her actions. Oh my goodness. All right. So thanks guys for hanging out with me for that. I do have a setup to redirect over to my other channel. Hopefully I will see you somebody there. We will be done before Jeremy. We're usually 45 minutes, 50 minutes. So we will be done before 8 o'clock. If we aren't, it's like 5 minutes after. However, I have to go do some stuff. I have to make sure that my family is good and set up for bedtime, both bedtime routines. However, I will see you guys in a little bit. And please go hit the like button and subscribe button if you haven't seen that channel and check it out. That is my baby. I am so proud of what we are trying to do over there. This is where I get to vent and just give you my unfiltered thoughts. That is my career. That is my baby. That is what I went to school for. I am all here for that. So, you know, I will see you guys later. I will miss that. So sorry. It's almost midnight here. Gotta go get some sleep. Yes, you go get some sleep. Lurking in NOLA with Karch. Oh no, 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 no. Good luck. Good luck. But I will see you guys. If not, I'll see you guys on the next one. Tomorrow we are talking Derek Rosa and all the craziness out of that. I will see you guys in a little bit. Bye.